on stage, it's my pleasure to welcome Nick Kerigan, Head of Innovation at SWIFT. Please put your hands together. And the fireside will be moderated by our amazing Niki Csanyi. She is the Executive Director from the CVA and the main organizing engine of this event and actually all our events. Please put your hands together for Niki. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think Nick and I were just listening to the panel before us, and we're just looking at each other that this is actually the perfect transition of panels, because everybody was talking about, the closing words about liquidity fragmentation, interoperability, and that actually, rather than reinventing and starting from scratch, which is, let's be honest, is not very possible, let's use what we have and let's build on the current financial infrastructure, but make it better and innovate it with blockchain technology and digital assets. So, first of all, before this, I wanted to start with the fact that let's just take a pause and realize how significant it is that I'm sitting here today with Nick from SWIFT. Now, 2 years ago, when we had the first edition of the Web3 Banking Symposium, the conversation was about, let's bring banks and traditional financial institutions in the room, and let's try to convince them that digital assets and crypto and blockchain are nothing to be afraid of. And in 2 years, which is a very short amount of time, we have SWIFT, one of the backbones of international trade and financial infrastructure, here with us on stage, talking about how they have announced their blockchain-based ledger, and what they are doing to integrate blockchain and digital assets into their infrastructure. An interesting statistics that Nick shared with me when we had the prep call was that SWIFT processes the equivalent of the world's GDP every 2 to 3 days. That's pretty mind-blowing. So now imagine part of this volume, and eventually maybe all of the volume will be processed through blockchain-based ledgers and DLT. Anyway, I don't want to take more of your time. Nick, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do as a head of innovation at SWIFT. Let's set the stage.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction, Niki, and thank you so much to the Crypto Valley Association for inviting me here today. It's a real pleasure to be in Zurich, in this beautiful venue with the beautiful weather outside. It's certainly nicer than it was in London when I left. So, and I'm very happy that we're now having this infrastructure conversation here today, because I think it shows how the discussion has moved on around blockchain technology and digital assets in particular. A bit about SWIFT for those who know us less well. We are the world's largest financial messaging provider. We connect 11,500 banks and corporates from across the world. And as you said, Niki, we operate already at very high levels of scale, as well as high levels of security and high levels of resilience, because those institutions rely on us every second, every minute, every day. And in terms of the mix of what we do, about 50% of our messaging today is around payments, in particular cross-border payments, and roughly 50% is around securities settlement and enabling the post-trade processes, which was talked about a little bit earlier. And we're constantly trying to improve the experience, the speed at which we operate. So maybe one stat for you, because people often say, have stereotypes around cross-border payments. Well, I can tell you that today, 75% of the payments across our network reach the beneficiary bank within 10 minutes, and often within seconds. So this is a system that is operating now at much greater speed.
And I was guilty of that too. I assumed that it would take much longer, and then when you told it to me at the call, I was surprised. But nonetheless, there's still improvements that can be made. And of course, we consider blockchain's benefit, one of the main one is 24/7 and instant settlements and instant communication. But as we talked, you explained to me that there's so much more, so many more doors that this new implementation will will open. But first, let's take a step back. So you introduced or announced the blockchain-based ledger late last year, but it has been in the works for a while now. So do you want to give us a little bit of a backstory here? How has it been evolving? What were the main drivers? Was it driven by internal desire for innovation? Was it driven by your user base and your clients? Let's hear why the shift?
Of course. So as an innovator, I mean, we've been working in the blockchain space now for well over 5 years. And initially, our focus around that was how do we enable institutions to adopt digital assets and digital money, and thinking about how we could enable interoperability between different blockchains and infrastructures that were emerging. As you rightly said, late last year we announced that we're going to be implementing a blockchain-based ledger on top of the SWIFT's existing network. And really this is about a kind of almost like a two-pronged strategy, but one that's very much linked together, because we're all about increasing the speed, transparency, and cost dynamics of cross-border payments. And so on the one hand, we're enhancing the existing rails, so the existing rails really improve and continue to get better. And second, we're actually building the new rails, and this is where that ledger comes in, because we're really thinking about how does this technology really upgrade the SWIFT network to provide things to our clients that they want from us, but that they also kind of struggle to do today. And so we think about the functionalities that blockchain can give us, and therefore really bring together the existing and the new. I mean, our vision really in this space is to have a network that is seamlessly interoperable. So whether you have an existing asset or existing money, or you have new assets or new money, you can transact with them in a very, very seamless way and use your SWIFT connectivity in order to do that.
So the old system is not going anywhere, but you're adding this as an improvement and enrichment, and then see how it can transform later.
Absolutely.
And intertwine.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And so SWIFT is a messaging system, not necessarily a settlement system. But with this new blockchain-based ledger, is this going to change? How does it affect the old system?
So we're not fundamentally changing our role in this space. SWIFT is very much going to be providing this ledger as a coordination and orchestration layer for clients. And within that context, we really want to be able to connect into different settlement venues, whether there's the sort of the more traditional settlement venues like RTGS systems, or whether they're new settlement venues with digital money on them. So we're going to provide a range of those venues, and then be able to enable the coordination and orchestration on the top of that. I should also say we're really proceeding in a very pragmatic way here. So what we want to do is start with this use case around wholesale cross-border payments, figure that out, get an MVP live in the coming months, and then look to expand out into other use cases as well, as we see the demand from our clients to do so. And I guess why are we doing this now? It would be a good question, because we've been at this for 5 years or so. I mean, I think it's as we're all very conscious in this room, it's because tokenization has really, really accelerated, right? I mean, it was the top conversation at Davos in January.
That's true.
And we're talking here, I think now, the right conversation. It's not a conversation about the price of Bitcoin. It's a conversation about institutional adoption. And that's now happening, I think, because we're starting, as Ilya actually alluded to at the start, right? It's about the maturity of the technology. It's about regulatory clarity that gives people confidence to adopt. And it's also about, I think, the policy relevance here, because, and you can see this with all the geopolitics that's going on at the moment, right? People have realized that financial infrastructure is actually, very critical to the global financial system and the global economy in a broadest sense.
Yeah.
And therefore, if blockchain and tokenization is going to be at the future of that, then we need to be right at the forefront.
And that's actually a very crucial question for us in Switzerland, and Ilya's slide had one slide with the flags, right, of which each sort of main hub moving into which direction in terms of regulatory requirements versus how important crypto and blockchain and digital assets are for the economy. And we hope that for Switzerland, we will continue moving in the right direction and making it easier for companies to implement digital assets and blockchain solutions. So, cross-border payments, right? What doors are we opening with this new blockchain-based ledger? You mentioned a couple during our session.
Yeah.
I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some sort of very obvious kind of foundational things that we can enable with this blockchain-based ledger, and there are ones that will actually also then be able to create further revenue upside and commercial upside for our members. I mean, the first and very obvious one is around faster payments, is around 24/7 availability of those systems, and also is about, and I don't think we talk about this enough in the blockchain space, but really having that's the value of having that single view of state of a transaction is something that I think is extremely useful for financial institutions, because you start to get those efficiency benefits in terms of reduced reconciliations, reduced risk in terms of where my position is at any one time. So those are really, I think, the sort of important foundational things. Having said that, there's also the things that we can unlock in terms of use cases that really go further than we can today. That we give opportunities to SWIFT members to be able to do things that are actually quite challenging or difficult to do with the current infrastructure. And so, we talk awful lot about things like, atomic settlement, but that then leads into being able to optimize liquidity and being able to do that intraday, not overnight, right?
And that's going to be a huge commercial win for everybody, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it also, to the previous panel, talks about evolving business models as well, because you start to be able to optimize your borrowing requirements in intraday, but then you also get liquidity providers who can then generate yield intraday, and that's where it starts to get very, 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 very interesting. And you see those platforms growing. So I was reading the AFME report that came out just a few days ago, and some of the platforms in the US are looking at hundreds of billions of dollars of intraday repo type transactions already, right? And that's that's volume that's bigger than the entire stablecoin market, right? So you're really seeing some significant growth. People are starting to recognize these use cases. And then as you go further, you think about programmability, on-chain FX settlement, things that you can achieve with netting. So I think these use cases will open up, and as SWIFT, we're the enabler here, right? We're going to enable the innovation that financial institutions want to put on top of this ledger.
And you can push the envelope, right? Because you have 11,500 institutions that you work with. So it may be a few core for now, but I think the sky is the limit, right? You mentioned that you have 30 to 40 partners at the moment that you work with. What do you think? I think this is important for the people in the room here, because there's a lot of banks, traditional financial institutions. What does this mean on a day-to-day basis for these institutions? How should they prepare? Are there steps that they can take to take advantage, to join?
Yeah. So when we announced back in September, we had just over 30 institutions working with us. We're now working with over 40 on this. So it's real kind of almost like a global coalition, all regions represented, which is great, because we want to design globally. Our efforts here are always inherently collaborative. We don't do things on our own. We always collaborate. And here we're taking something that we want to get into a production environment really pretty quickly. So I think it's an exciting space. When I think about financial institutions in this room, we're also very conscious that SWIFT is not first to blockchain. We didn't suddenly discover it from under a stone, right? Everybody in this community has been working for a while. But the advantage we can hopefully provide is that because of that existing connectivity, we can really help institutions to adopt and scale this very rapidly. And the other component to that is all around standards. And so I really like that container analogy before, because why was the container successful? Because you had the standardized box, right? You wouldn't have infinite variation, you have a standardized box. And we need to be able to create the standardized boxes now for the digital assets and digital money environment. And that, I believe, will help scale. And indeed, it didn't get picked up so much, but actually back in Sibos, we also announced that we are creating a standardization platform which will enable people to be able to come and plug and play to create standards compliance tokens and smart contracts.
That's wonderful. And I see my red sign is flashing that I'm out of time, unfortunately. Ilias, he has a question. So I will allow him because this event was his brainchild.
That's a really interesting question. I think actually it's a good analogy, and I didn't make this up. A good friend of mine, Tony McLaughlin, who's at
And let
Unix.
me repeat the question for the recording, right? So Ilya was saying that SWIFT is becoming a WhatsApp of the financial world. Is that what you said? In terms of messaging for blockchain rails, correct?
No,
I'm sorry. Using blockchain rails.
So one of my good friends and colleagues likes to say that if you're organizing a dinner party, it's much more easy to organize it on WhatsApp than it is via email. And so yes, I think we are moving from the email era to the WhatsApp era. I think the good news is in this space is that we don't have to create everything from scratch. We actually have loads of these components for what will be the future financial stack, be they blockchain, AI, a trust and governance layer, and richer data. So all of this is going to come together, I think, in a much improved experience in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for Nick.